Remember when we first met? You said that you had been dreaming of a moment like that for as long as you were in that tower. But at the same time, you never imagined it was going to be so beautiful. You also said that you wished that it could last forever. And I made you a promise. I promised you I would keep this dream alive. I'm sorry I haven't been able to do so. One day, I will become you. What is to become of our children, of my family? Alice, I'll stop this nightmare. I'll mend this path so you may dream forever, my love. I made you a promise, and I'll never break it for as long as I'm alive.
Getting a little heavy. I'll just put a few of these things away for now.
How is she faring, sire?
Keep an eye. Post a guard here day and night.
I shall do it myself, sire.
I appreciate it. I can't stay by her side.
Do not worry over it.
Thank you.
Graham thinks it may be a good idea to go check on his children.
I heard you got put on kitchen duty last night. Captain Sullivan said if I was so interested in sniffing about the castle, I ought to go to the kitchens directly. I told you not to keep snuffling like you were hungry all the time on duty. I can't help it if I have such a sensitive nose. You'd think they'd try putting my talents to good use. Out in the countryside or hunting down criminals. Sure. A sensitive nose and a big stomach, you mean?
A long time ago, before Alexander was born, Graham read a book of a man who journeyed for years in search of his purpose and fighting against an inherent darkness that struggled to overcome him. The protagonist's name was Alexander. It was so compelling that it led Graham to name his son after that character, and he desperately hopes now that Alexander is as fortunate in his struggles as the one in the story. Graham has never seen Rosella lying so still for such a long period of time. He cannot help looking at his little girl's golden locks with tenderness, a few strands fallen across her face, her mist-filled eyes shut to the world, and her voice so silent. The land's all the poorer for being deprived of her laughter. For a moment, it's too much for the king, and he feels his legs struggle to hold him up, his will gone and his heart filled with only despair. But he perseveres, knowing his little girl needs him now more than ever, and Graham is determined to rescue her.
Am I interrupting something?
Oh, Your Majesty, I didn't notice you were here.
I was just passing by, seeing how my children were doing.
They've been good and haven't interrupted me.
Where did everybody else go?
They left me to prepare a speech. I would usually write this sort of thing in the study, but I prefer to stay by Alexander's side as much as I can right now.
How's it coming?
Having some problems. Alexander would always help me write them. Saladin was helping me, but then he had to meet his guards downstairs, and then, well, the incident with your wife.
Yes, that was the last thing I needed at this moment.
How is she doing?
She's now.
It's all so upsetting. Have you had any luck finding a cure?
The druids have helped me, and there's some hope yet.
That's a relief. They are good people, if reclusive.
And very wise. How do you think Alexander is doing?
I was with him for most of yesterday. He just sleeps like he's dead. I don't see how he can be brought back.
He can, Cassima. You know he can. Look outside. There was a terrible storm yesterday, but now it's clear. Everything dark will lead into something light. You just have to have faith, Bill.
I know, but it's so hard. Look at him. You wouldn't expect him to make much noise, but to be so quiet? I just can't take this.
It's going to be all right. Trust me. I know it is somehow imprudent, but can you tell me about Alexander? I'm talking about the way he is, as a man, as a husband, and as a king.
I sometimes forget you probably know him less than I do. It's such a shame leaving his family.
I'm sure he wouldn't be the man now.
Every cloud has a silver lining. Isn't that what they say?
Yes, Cassima, my point exactly.
Still, maybe not all is that good.
What do you mean?
Alexander has issues. Things he won't trust anybody with.
It's understandable. He grew up as a slave.
He doesn't talk too much. Well, he's a good king, but when it comes to personal issues, he won't talk about them. It frustrates me at times because I want to help him through it, but I can't.
Perhaps you should talk the Elders through.
Don't get me wrong. I understand very well. I know what it's like being dragged away from your family and forced to become someone else's slave. I still wake up at night, sweating, scared, and it was just a couple of years. I can't begin to imagine how it was for him. A whole life? You know, Your Majesty, I love your son so much.
I know you do, my child. I know you do. Has he ever said anything about how he feels?
At times. Sometimes I get him to the point where he's about to let out, but then he'll catch himself and pull away again.
What has he said in these moments?
He's unsure of what he deserves. He hasn't told me this directly, but that's what I gather. He is stubborn at times, and won't take orders from anybody.
He's probably had enough of those.
I also think he's very afraid of losing all he has now.
Does he blame us?
No, never. He's most happy to have found you. He always imagined you like that, he says.
What do you like to do?
He enjoys his time by my side, but sometimes he just likes to be on his own.
You can't blame him. He's not used to being around people.
Well, he's gotten better. The first weeks, I'd be lucky if he stayed in a town meeting for more than an hour. Now he even enjoys the company of others. But still, there's a dark shadow, almost like a living pain surfacing in his eyes.
All you can do is be by his side.
That's what I do. He's learned to come to me, and I'll keep silent while he cries on my shoulder like a scared child.
He must have some terrible demons inside.
It's really heartbreaking. He just holds me tight as if not wanting to let go. Do you think he's gone?
He's not gone, my child. I know this is hard on everybody, but we must keep the faith.
You know, they say that people can still hear when they are asleep. That you can transmit certain emotions. We shouldn't let him hear this.
Did you find my daughter to your liking?
Of course. Rosella is... well, she has all this energy. One night, she almost convinced me to steal the ferry and travel to the Isle of Mist. But Edgar and Alexander came back at the moment we were preparing to leave.
Don't let yourself be carried away by my daughter's ideas. Sometimes I think she'll never grow up.
Oh, I don't see the need to be too hard on her. We've become really good friends over these few months we've been talking to each other, especially after the wedding was set to be here. I think she's just afraid.
With the husband there comes responsibility. And children.
Yes, and she won't be able to go adventuring as she's used to. It's just that she's afraid. But I'm sure she'll get over it and grow to be a wonderful wife and mother.
For the sake of Edgar, I hope so too. You are lucky to have grown up in such a beautiful land as this.
I guess I am. Though sometimes I think the weather is just too hot or the waves are just too violent. I am glad to rule over it. I'm sure Alexander is too.
Does he ever talk about his own homeland to you?
All the time. I would love to visit your kingdom again after